special day for you. I am just here to talk a little bit about logistics. So this is a live event. We have not gone live yet, but I expect nothing but the best from this group of students. Quiet, respectful. Remember, we have, I think our grand total right now is upwards of 85 classes throughout the board joining us virtually. So they need to be able to hear our presenters and our guests just as well as you do. So please remember to be a respectful audience member today. On your way out, there are ribbons on the back table.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Martin Gage. I'm the principal of LCVI, and I'm going to read the land acknowledgement for everyone today. But I just want to say, if the land acknowledgement is something where you just hear it and you listen and you don't actually think about what it means, then it really doesn't mean as much. So I'd encourage you, while I read it, to really think about what it means to you, or, you know, when you're driving home, sort of think about what it means as well. So Trillium Lakelands District School Board, as a learning organization, acknowledges that we learn, live, and work on the traditional lands and waters of the Ojibwe Nation, the Huron-Wendat Nation, and now includes communities from the Mohawk Nation, the Potawatomi Nation, and the Métis Nation of Ontario. Under the One Dish, One Spoon Treaty, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Anishinaabe peoples agreed to share and care for this territory for the benefit of future generations. We acknowledge their stewardship throughout the ages. And I'm now going to pass things off to our guest, Brittany Taylor, who's coming to us from Curve Lake.
Good morning. Woo! Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. There we go. Mino Gijab. Mino Gijab is how we say good morning in my traditional language. Sorry, just having a hard time getting used to hearing myself talk. It's really embarrassing. Miigwech for inviting me here to your school. By a show of hands, has anyone met me here before throughout the summer or any cultural programming or any adventures? Okay, then maybe that's the afternoon class. So lots of people are excited about today, about the opportunity for planting seeds. What we are going to be talking about today and what you will learn about in school and what you'll learn about in the world is the really sad history of the First Peoples of Canada. Why is it important and why does it matter? I do a lot of work with truth and reconciliation all over the Kawarthas, kind of venturing out all around Ontario. And the reason that it's important is so that I'm safe, me. I have a mom and I have a family and they worry about me because the world that I live in was kind of created to be against me. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Do we know about oppression, Do we know about these things? Have we learned about these sorts of systemic oppressions? And learning that where you're safe, not necessarily someone else is safe. And how do we make a safe space for everyone is we educate and we talk about things. And these topics, again, are really heavy issues. And they're the root causes of a lot of hatred and a lot of anger. Who here has heard the term hurt people, right? So if you're hurting inside, you're angry. And if you're angry, you're probably gonna act out and you're gonna lash out. And the only way to really heal is to hear, listen, and work. And it takes the work of everyone. It takes me, your principal, your teachers, you, your mom, everyone in your circle, in your community, working together to learn about some very hard truths so that we can undo a lot of damage that was caused and help a lot of people heal and mend. Why do we wear orange? Well, I guess there's a lot of different reasons why we wear orange. And we're gonna talk about all of these things all day long. But one of the things that I wanna talk about is I love when I see orange. I love when I see people wearing orange. Because the world that I live in, when I walk around on my day-to-day, even here, even in Lindsay, even in Bobcaygeon, Peterborough, Lakefield, it's really hard to distinguish for me who is my friend and who is foe, who is an ally, who is somebody that I'm safe with, being safe in a space. So when I see you wearing orange, when I see you, your property has a flag or your car has a sticker, I'm able to recognize that you are doing your work and you're an ally, and that's a safe space for me. And that is super, super important with Indigenous peoples such as myself. By a show of hands, if you are comfortable, who here self-identifies as Anishinaabe? Awesome. So there's only just a handful of us, only just a handful, when really and truly there should be billions, millions, all of us, everywhere, all over. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So by a raise of hands, how many people know a First Nations person? Okay, wow, so you guys all know First Nations people. Awesome. Okay, you guys know me, so everybody should raise their hand. Oh, everyone's going to get to know me. So by saying that, not everyone is Indigenous, but there's a good chance every person knows someone who's Indigenous. So I'm gonna kind of stay away from that. For example, if we were to go to Italy, we would probably want to learn Italian. We'd probably want to learn, a little bit about their culture, what those buildings mean, the history. Most people in Canada don't know that there's a very rich, beautiful culture that are the Anishinaabe people, the First Peoples. And not because of Truth and Reconciliation Commission, not because of the calls to action, but because of humanity, being a human being, having kindness and compassion. It really is not your responsibility, but should you choose to, learn about the First Peoples of this land, learn about the truth, so that you can be an ally, so that you can build this land back together. The Anishinaabe people, we watch, well, maybe not so much anymore, but growing up, the depiction of Indigenous peoples was not the greatest. It was really sad, and we know now that a lot of that was caused by injustice and the hurt, and that a lot of the things that you hear and see about Anishinaabe people aren't the truth. That's just, the ignorance, that uneducation. I'm just not losing track of thought, but when you're talking about this, this is my truth. I'm Indigenous. I am Anishinaabe. I have lived a lot of that sadness, being, you know, a generational survivor of Indian residential schools. So the reality of it is your school or organizations, you know, they ask us to do this and speak with you, but as I'm speaking to you, core memories are like popping into my head. And not that you get carried away or you get off track, but there's a lot of healing work that I have to do in that regard. So I do apologize if I veer off track a little. It's just you have to meet people where they are in their healing. And today is a very heavy, heavy day. I'm talking to you guys, we're working together, but I also talk and do a lot of work with survivors from residential schools. And when I'm talking about it, their faces are popping up in my head, and their stories are popping up in my head, because it is so, 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 so important for you to help change the future of this country. Like I was saying, Indigenous peoples, that depiction is a really sad one, and we're gonna understand and learn, you know, why that happened, why that was created to people, why they created this oppression. But traditionally, Indigenous peoples were protectors of the land, protectors of the water, guardians of the animals. They cared for the land, they cared for the water. And there's a lot of Anishinaabe people now, and we call it the 7th generation, who have gone through immense amount of healing, who are back to that activism and back to that fighting. And that's my agenda as an Anishinaabe person. It's not to get my taxes off of my purchases at Walmart. It's to protect the water for future generations. It's to help educate people so that they can help me, you know, get the salmon back running after the Trent Severn waterway destroyed the dams. There's a lot of history and culture in this Mississauga First Nations territory, which you reside in. How many people here love being on the water and going canoeing? Who loves to canoe and be on the water, right? It's like the best feeling. Okay, it was duck opener last weekend. How many people here love to go hunting? I'm a huntress. Here we go. Lots of hunters, no hunter. Oh, I wish there was more hands. Hunting's good. So these are like the things that the Anishinaabe people are doing now. When we think about Anishinaabe people, it is sad, but we also have to celebrate Indigenous success, Indigenous brilliance, and there has to be that balance. As you grow through your life, you'll learn about these things. It's a very precarious time for you guys being teenagers. But again, just, you know, always try to leave with kindness. And yeah, our creator of this world, we call him our good and kind creator. And that's what we have to believe, is that he is good and kind, just how we are supposed to model ourselves to be good and kind. So today, again, we're going to be talking about truth and reconciliation. We're going to be talking about some really heavy topics and some conversations. And I'm just so grateful to be here with you all. And again, I'm very nervous. I'm kind of new at this myself, but I really hope you guys do a good job with trying to listen today. Not just listen, but hear with your heart. You know, these issues are huge, and together we really can change the future. We actually really can, and I look forward to that. Today we have some very special guests, guests of mine, to me, anyways. They're the they're hand drum singers, traditional hand drum singers, and we have Barb and Brenda. And I believe and Kelly, possibly, is going to come and introduce them, and we're going to open up in a good way with a traditional song.
Miigwech. Chi 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 miigwech, Brittany. That was a beautiful opening. Hello to everybody out there. We haven't forgot about you. We know that you're out there watching out in Trillium Lakeland's virtual world. So hello, everybody. I get the honor of introducing two members of Unity Singers, Barb Rivett and Brenda Miracle O'Toole, who are going to open with a welcome song this morning.
There we go, Sherry. What a great way to start our morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mr. Hahn, and I'm the Director of Education for Trillium, and I'm really super excited to be here. I think there's a couple things I'd like to say. First of all, on behalf of the trustees for the school board and the senior staff, we want to thank our guests and of course our Indigenous team for organizing the event. What a fantastic week. and it's culminating in a great event today. I think it's really important as I look around at all the faces that everyone understands that you're on a learning journey. Brittany said it this morning perfectly, planting the seeds. I'm on a learning journey to better understand truth and reconciliation and the damage that residential schools did to our Indigenous families. You have to be on the same journey. It's really important. It's important for our school board, it's important for our communities, and we're committed to it lifelong. So I hope you listen really carefully today and take learning back with you. Maybe share it with your families tonight. I hope you do that, because I certainly will be taking it back to our team and sharing the learning today as well. So welcome, and thank you to our guests and our team for organizing, and thank you staff for bringing students down. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Director Hahn. So I'd just like to, again, welcome and reiterate how valued and important it is that you're joining us today, whether you're here in person or in the live stream or recording world. It's really, really important. Our vision for today is that we will be listening with our minds and our hearts, that we will be learning, and if things go really, really well, we'll be dancing, because this journey, there's a lot of sadness in it, but it's all about relationship. And so when we dance, sometimes we step on each other's toes, but you just, we try to do better. And so we might make mistakes as we're learning about reconciliation and trying to do better. We might be making mistakes, our team today, that's totally possible, but it's okay because relationships have mistakes in them. What matters is that we are going to do better. So a little bit about what the day looks like, or the time looks like. We've already had some beautiful words from Brittany Taylor, and we're going to be hearing from her again. I want to let you know that we have 4 other, actually more than 4 voices coming in. So we'll have, after Brittany, there'll be 2 videos, and then a bit of a music special activity, and then 2 more videos. And in the videos, we're going to be hearing from friends and community members who some of you may recognize. Skave was Dave Rice from Wasauksing First Nation, Elder Christopher Stock from Wahta Mohawk territory, some voices from students and staff, and then Larry O'Connor. I'm going to work on this one. Sheshegwaning First Nation, Odawa. So important voices. I encourage us to listen with our minds and our hearts as we reflect on where we've been in our relationships in Canada with each other. And really I'm specifically talking about Indigenous, non-Indigenous, or Indigenous settler people, where we are today and how we can be in a better place sooner rather than later. So, so thanks for being here. And Brittany, come on up. She's going to share some more words, as she always does. Speak some truth and the importance of truth. So please continue listening as well as you were before. Wonderful job. Yay, Brittany.
So, yeah, thank you, everyone. Again, Sheshegwaning for that beautiful song, that gift of song. It's different, right? That music, it's kind of funny, too. When you hear it for the first time, it's different. And different's okay. That's okay to be different, but it was beautiful. Miigwech, it was actually a bear song. That was the bear song. They were singing about the bear. And the bear in our culture represents medicine and the elders and just a lot of really good healing. In the school board, I do teachings with the medicine circle or a medicine wheel. How many people here have seen a medicine circle or wheel or know what I'm talking about? It's like the big circle, has the 4 quadrants. Yeah, so that's kind of like a guiding tool for Anishinaabe people, for First Nations people, and in that encapsulate kind of all your morals, your teachings, and your different stages of life. And the bear actually represents that elder stage of your life. So in order to get to your elder stage, you have to live your whole life, right? You have to be your infant, your adolescent, your adult, and then your elder. And as I'm saying this, it kind of just hit me. There's not as many elders in my community as I wished. And there's not as many teachers in my community that I wish there was, because there's not that many Anishinaabe people that I wish there was to teach those songs and to give those teachings. You know, we learn from people who are older than us most of the time, but sometimes we learn from those who are younger. But yeah, that thought just hit my head. I had like 3 speeches and really long, not boring details, but it is a lot. It's a lot to hear about in 1867, this guy and this and that happened, or it's really hard to, you know, hear the stories of survivors and or just listen to anyone talk mostly. So I don't think I'm gonna stick to those dates of when this all started and how it all began and the really sad history of it all. I think I'm gonna talk about my truth, like my truth for truth and reconciliation. And again, I touched on it earlier, saying that I'm safe. Who here has social media? Who here uses a computer? Everybody? We all have an Instagram, Facebook. So you're gonna see a lot of things. You're gonna see a lot of things, you know, in the media. And one of the biggest things that are happening right now is if I say search the landfills. Do we know what I mean by that? Searching landfills. So right now, in Canada, we have something called Missing Murdered Indigenous Women. It's a movement. And it's an act because there are things that are happening to women in different communities where there is no regard and no respect for their autonomy or their humanity. And they're literally killing Anishinaabe people, women, and just putting them in the dump. You know how we all go to the dump with our tags and our bags, and you know, that's a really sad state. That is the Canada that we live in. It might not really be happening in Ontario, but it's happening. It's happening in Canada. And that's why it's so important that we educate one another. Because I'm pretty sure that the same people that are doing this are those same people that are walking around hurt and hurting other people and are hurting other people with their ignorance. And ignorance is just uneducated. They didn't listen. Maybe they listened, but they didn't listen with their hearts. I'm not saying go sign a petition to search the landfill, but reconciliation. What's reconciliation? Is reconciliation searching the landfills? Is reconciliation cleaning the water, providing clean drinking water? There's a lot of bigger work that needs to be done that I can't necessarily do, that you necessarily can't do. We're talking about government officials and policies and bills and all kinds of things. But what you can do now is see where you are individually in your reconciliation. Even me, my truth, my reconciliation. It's really hard, the road that I live in, and the role that I play as an Anishinaabe person, because I walk in a Western society, but I also walk with my Indigenous teachings and culture. So my reconciliation was to not be angry. How many people here have had something happen to them where they just felt like life was so unfair? Like you're just like, this is so unfair. This is so unjust. How can this be? I wish this wasn't the case. Yeah, right? It's an awful feeling. It really is. And that's kind of what I was born into. I didn't pick this life, I don't think, but I was born Anishinaabe in Canada after years of oppression in Indian residential schools. So I'm here. What am I going to do? Am I going to be angry? Am I going to be mad at the world? Am I not going to heal myself and be mad at the people who didn't really do this to me, but people who, well, actually didn't really know what was going on? Because that's the other thing. We didn't really learn about this in our school books. We didn't really get taught it too much. I had one teacher. Did anybody here have that one really cool teacher who just tells you how it is and what the world's like and just gives it to you real, right? Yeah. So in my reconciliation, through, the bits and truths that I heard, I decided that I wanted to do better and educate, and I wanted to help people understand the history of Canada and why the Anishinaabe people are the way they are, why the world is the way it is. So that's where I am in my reconciliation. It's really hard. Who here knows about, if I say wild rice or monoman? Do we know what wild rice or monoman is by show of hands? Anyone? Wow, that's amazing. Okay, well, wild rice is this beautiful plant that grows on the water that gives a lot of food security to the Anishinaabe people. We harvest it this time of the year, and it's really hard to harvest, but it's rice, and we cook it all year long. Well, on some of the lakes around here, it grows, which is wonderful. It cleans the earth and helps the wetlands and all kinds. But there are people who aren't happy about it because it clogs up their waterfront. And waterfront property is very expensive, and these are things you learn about as you get older. But I could be angry and I could go fight when I go to those meetings, and I have these men in my face and they're screaming, angry, so mad. And I could be angry and mad too, right? Like I can yell at them and I can cry because I have all that injustice. I have all that sadness. I have all those people's stories. I have all my own experiences. And I could just send it back to them, but I don't. I ground myself. How a lot of years of practice and patience. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't lose my cool. Sometimes it does happen. But I made a choice. I choose reconciliation every day and every interaction that I have, especially unpleasant ones. It's about your self-worth, where you are, where is your mind. Most of you guys, like I said, you're going through a lot. You're not really too concerned, but this is where you're finding out the groups you belong to, who you want to be when you're older. What do you want to be? How do you want people to view you? You're starting to already feel that. So reconciliation is something that we ask of you as Canadians, as students, as future generation of this country, is to ask yourself, where are you at in your reconciliation? Today you're going to hear a lot of people talking, and we had spoken on the fact that there are some ribbons in the back, and you have a chance to write on it. In a week's time, I want you to remember where that ribbon is. Like, go find that ribbon. After today, in 1 week, have you looked at that ribbon every day since? Have you reflected on those things? Have you shared those things? Are you going to go home and tell people? Or are you going to hear, a conversation maybe about Indigenous people, and you can educate someone? Or you can choose to stand up and be an ally. These are really, big things that are happening in the world that you guys are, slowly being introduced to. I believe in grade 12, you're going to have to watch this really horrible movie, if you haven't already seen it, called Indian Horse by Richard Wasauksing. So this is a whole life thing. This is not today. This is not, we're going to take this shirt out, put it in the closet, save it for next year. You're covered. That's not what we're asking. We're asking for you to do 365 so that I can walk down the street safely, so that I can send my kids to school and they're not going to be bullied or have gum put in their hair or cut off by the other bullies and the kids, because they know the importance of Indigenous education. They know about Indigenous culture. They connect with the land like the Indigenous people do. They enjoy the waterways. They enjoy the clean air and the healthy food and all the beautiful animals. So, again, we have some guest speakers that are going to be on the Zoom. This is Zoom, live streaming. So we just want to make sure that we're really quiet, maybe not talking so much amongst ourselves, and really try to pay attention. Again, I'll be speaking when we're closing, but if at any time throughout the day you feel you want to talk to me, you are more than welcome to come and speak with me about anything that you've heard about today or something you've reflected on in your life. And Chimigwach, everyone, for listening. I really appreciate all of you here today and at home. So, Miigwach.
Right? She deserves that. I'm a little bit louder, apparently. I'm sorry, I'll quiet my voice down. Hello out there. I wanted to remind everybody, too, that the live recording will be available after today, probably early next week. So if you want to come back and re-watch Brittany's opening and her incredible truths that she shared with us, hard stories, heartfelt stories, which are so important. And we're going to continue to hear more stories and hard truths as we move throughout the hour. So for those of you at home, we are going to switch off. You're going to be watching a pre-recorded video. You'll come back to us live. We are going to watch the same video here, and we will join you in a little bit. We have two more knowledge holders that some of you may have met before. We have Dave Rice coming up to speak to us some more about truth. And we have Elder Christopher Stock as well, who's queued up here on a pre-recorded video to talk about truth. So, Miigwech.
Gajamnado, the Nakabi Indigenous were Klukto there. Wasauksing the binge were Jibwe and Da. It's originally the name, the language our people spoke. Our people walked on this place they call Muskoka, with the Haudenosaunee people, the Mohawks, the Wendat, Algonquins even. There's been so much people that walked on this creation. You see remnants in the bush of how our people walked here. So we are, I just want to honor that first being that walked on creation, Winnebago. We named everything in the language so that we as Anishinaabe people could walk here and know what these sacred things we speak of, the water, the air, trees, the nourishment of the animals, are all connected to all this language we speak. Anishinaabe language is a very descriptive language. So when we speak of that, we speak about how resilient our language still exists today because of our ancestors, because of that first being who walked here, who made sure that we knew everything in these trees that we see here, from these pines, right into the birch, the bark, the limbs, to the roots, to the rings in the tree, to the roots into the ground, the root of the substance of creation. How resilient these trees are. That have been here since time immemorial too. They have generations of trees. So we give thanks for that and the language that came with that, but also our people, our ancestors, that we always honor our ancestors because of the resilience they had. They walked through a lot of things in this journey here that we call life, the good life. Our people walked that every day, from the time the sun rose till it went down. Those were our days. So we always were harvesting something. So we believed in that way because it connected us to the creation and our original teachings. And the original teachings of all that, the life I spoke of, the water, the trees, the fire, the animals, all those things that are still alive in our Indigenous people's lives, right across the world. So we're connected to that being, that spiritual being that connects us to that creation. So when we think about being walking here since time immemorial, my ancestors walked here for a long time. My name exists because of my ancestors. That spirit name, and where I come from. Where I originally came from was Kansas City, Kansas area, down the Potawatomi area. That we migrated. We got chased up here by the cavalry. Trail of Tears, they call that. That's where my people came from. We originally were chased and we ran. And so we're descendants of that trail. Very resilient people. Culture lives strong because of that. The language, the teachings, the songs, the dancing, the respect to all this life that we speak of, and all those beautiful things we see every day. So our journey began with the spirit. I can only tell you my bit of my story of where I came from. Originally, I seen my mother in this creation. Out of all these beautiful women in the world, I picked my mother because I could see her spirit, because I was a spirit before that. Before I became this vessel, I seen her spirit through her physical vessel. So I chose her because she was a kind, caring, loving, gentle woman. And I got those traits from her, I believe. But my journey began there. And we went through a lot of things because of the remnants of the history of the dark history of Canada. We walked through that. And at a very young age of about 28, I decided to change. But the change came because I had to look at my life and where my family was at. So the resilient part is I became this person after 33 years. It took me to build this bundle I carry, this physical bundle here, the spiritual bundle I carry. I've learned from our ancestors. Always remember that every ceremony we do, even in our prayers, to honor our ancestors. Why I stand here today is because of them. And our people will continue to walk here in the next 7 generations because we believe that we're going to pass these things on to the young people. And when we become aware in schools and mainstream to plant seeds of awareness and a bit of knowledge so they understand why we're so adamant about the creation and about life and about our original mother. It's connected to the women in our lives. So we are resilient that way because the resiliency of the creation that keeps us resilient as humans. So we honor that and we honor the life that I live today. Oh.
Sheshegwaning, the Honadan Hayum Jets, and a Wahta Nitawak. Sheshegwaning, the Honadan Hayum Jets, and a Wahta Nitawagano, Wakatsununiti Wakanderhane. I offered a traditional greeting to you, and what it means is the great peace still with you. And from my teachings and my understanding, that's how we are supposed to address each other. After the peacemaker united all 5 warring nations of the Iroquois. And those warring nations were the Seneca, the Cayuga, the Onondaga, the Oneida, and the Mohawk. And later on, the Tuscarora joined. And what's really special is that we were given all these different things to remind us of those truths. And this tree here, this white pine tree, we call this the Great Tree of Peace. And every cluster of needle is a cluster of 5 to remind us of those 5 original nations that joined under this great law of peace. And that, for me, that reminds me of our relationship, how we were able to forge an alliance and throw our weapons of war underneath that tree so that we never have to pick up those weapons of war against each other anymore. And how we were able to honor each other as individual nations, yet collectively together as one family. To me, that is what reconciliation should be. It's not necessarily what it is at the moment, but it's a journey to do that. I mean, even the peacemaker, when he brought us together, that took years for him to bring us together. They say that his journey took 3 years just to travel to every community and then try to gather all of us together. And it only worked because they had to get everybody involved. And the last person to join that message of peace was Tadodaho. Now, they say he was a very powerful man, but he was so consumed by anger and hatred that he forgot his ways. And that's why they needed him to be a part of this peace in order for it to work. So they had to convince him. They had to get him to change his mind. And when they did so, that's when everybody was included. And that's what that story tells us about. And that's what this reminds me of. Every time I see that white pine tree and how tall and strong it grows, it reminds me of that. And that's a way forward. And reconciliation, it's about that. It's about mending your relationships and sewing things together so that we can join together. We also have to know and understand that reconciliation is not a destination, it's the journey. And it can take many lifetimes before we achieve it. But it is achievable. It's not impossible because we are here standing today and we are the reminders that it is possible. So with that, I'd like to give thanks to everything in creation, give thanks for your opportunity, and have you just reflect on that. Because that's what it takes. It takes remembrance, it takes reflection, and then it also takes some action. And as long as we're willing to work together as one, then we can achieve that. Now go, Chimegwech.
Sorry, everyone. Are we live? Welcome back. Technology is not my forte. I'm sorry. We'll figure this out in a second. I just want to say Chimagwech to Oskbeenis Rice and Nawagoa to Elder Stock for their words. We do have a time for us to get up and move. You have been sitting and you have been doing a great job, so Chimagwech for that. Our Unity singers are going to sing us a song, a friendship song. They are inviting you to stand and move your bodies at this time respectfully. And they are also inviting anybody who would like to come up and shake a shaker with them and stand with them for the song. You are invited to do that. If you're interested, could you raise your hand and we will get a shaker out to you. Raise it up tall if you want to come up and join them. There, we can see. Here we go. Shakers are coming. We only have a limited number of shakers, FYI. The rest of you, if you want to stand up, let your body move. Also, for those of you who are watching from home, you may not be able to see us every there, but now's your time too. Get up, listen to the music, and move your bodies.
Right on. All you gotta do is just keep the beat. I know how to do this. Like this?
Hello, hello. Everybody, I need some quiet here, please. Okay. Those of you who have a shaker, I want you to listen to me right now. If you have a shaker, listen to me. Okay. So unfortunately, in those videos, you didn't really get to hear all that much or too much. But what they were speaking on is the connection to things that we have in creation. And that's where reconciliation with Anishinaabe people begins, because that's our job. One of the things that we have in our creation are all these beautiful gifts. And I say gifts because these are not rights. These are gifts. These are our drums and our shakers and our music makers. And why they are gifts is because they're made of animal. They're made of spirit. And inside is spirit. When you're shaking this, you're calling my ancestors and your ancestors. When you hear Anishinaabe people say, Ani Bojo, Indigenous cause, and they introduce themselves, Ani is hello. Bojo, you think it's bonjour, like French, no. It's bonjour. Bonjour is, we're saying hi to our ancestors. We're acknowledging that other realm. So when you're shaking these, you're bringing in your ancestors. So if you want to be silly, you go right ahead. But if you're going to shake them, you be kind to them, you be good to them, and you have fun with them. And just be very gentle. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Brittany, that's why you do what you do. Again, these have life. Be respectful, and we'll let the women lead us.
All right, you're shaking as we're drumming, right? Let's have a practice. When I'm drumming, can you shake while I'm drumming? That's it. But what if I do this?
that was amazing. Chimigwech to the women. Thank you very much. Chimigwech to the Shakers. That was beautiful. That is reconciliation in action, LCVI and Central. And everybody at home, I hope you had a chance to get up. If you want to put them on the back table, that would be great. Hopefully everybody at home in their classrooms, I guess, not at home, in their classrooms got a chance to get up. As per usual, we are running short on time. We are going to go a little bit late, so bear with us as we do this. Right now we do have, I believe next on the schedule is another set of videos. These are going to be, knowledge holder Larry O'Connor is going to share a message about why is it important and what is our role, as well as we are going to hear some voices from TLDSB discussing the same things. Those of you live will also be watching these videos. We'll see you in a moment.
Ani Bozu Tansi, hello. Hinaka Bodawedembe.
Michaela, what does reconciliation mean to you?
It means that we're having a class
My name's Larry O'Connor.
and learning our true history and making positive changes.
How do you feel about having culture in the classroom?
I feel good because the people that aren't Indigenous get to learn about Indigenous, and for myself, I get to learn
My
about different
chat today is
cultures
going
and
to be about the role that we have to play in creating a better future. And if I think back to the time when I was a young lad growing up down in South Oshawa, I've got 6 sisters and 3 brothers. And when I went to school, we didn't talk about residential schools. We didn't know about them. My parents never mentioned it. My dad's mom died of tuberculosis in a sanitarium in Gravenhurst, and so he didn't even know his mother, never had the opportunity to have that conversation. It wasn't taught in our schools, and it's now being talked about in our schools. So if we think that we all have a role to play, our teachers do. Our teachers have a role to bring people in to have that conversation, to make sure that the word is out there, what's going on. Residential school is a sad piece of Canadian history. My grandmother, Marcelina, she lost a sister in the residential school in Sheshegwaning. This summer I was in Nipissing, Ottawa, and I sat with a woman who went to the very same school 100 years later. 100
What
years
does reconciliation mean to me? It means speaking the truth, even when it's difficult to say or hear. It means acknowledging my role and my responsibility as a settler on these
that doesn't get
lands.
chatted about too
It means
often.
working and learning alongside
need to have
Indigenous
that conversation.
communities and leaders. It means doing with, not to or for. Living the calls to action daily in both my personal and professional life is a key component of my commitment to reconciliation, because without action, there can be no reconciliation.
Reconciliation matters because it can be an opportunity for self-reflection, empathy, and personal development. I think there is value in allowing individuals an opportunity to learn from their past mistakes in order to move forward and become better people. It also allows us to address past conflicts and promote healing and trust and build a better and more just society. And in doing so, a better future.
Reconciliation means that I can be proud to be Métis. Reconciliation means that I can eat bannock every day. People shouldn't be embarrassed about who they are, so it's important to learn about reconciliation at school.
Ani Bozu Tansi, hello. Hinaka Bodawedembe Nadishnakas Makwododum, Alibertan Dunjiba, Sheshegwaning Dunjiba. My name's Larry O'Connor and my spirit name is Barnal. It was given to me by a Cree Sundance elder. I'm of the Bear clan, And my home community is Sheshegwaning on Manitoulin Island, but I reside now in Haliburton County. My chat today is going to be about the role that we have to play in creating a better future. And if I think back to the time when I was a young lad growing up down in South Oshawa, I've got 6 sisters and 3 brothers. And when I went to school, we didn't talk about residential schools. We didn't know about them. My parents never mentioned it. My dad's mom died of tuberculosis in a sanitarium in Gravenhurst, and so he didn't even know his mother, never had the opportunity to have that conversation. It wasn't taught in our schools, and it's now being talked about in our schools. So if we think that we all have a role to play, our teachers do. Our teachers have a role to bring people in to have that conversation, to make sure that the word is out there, what's going on. Residential school is a sad piece of Canadian history. My grandmother, Marcelina, she lost a sister in the residential school in Shingwap. This summer I was in Nipissing at a powwow, and I sat with a woman who went to the very same school 100 years later. 100 years after my grandmother went there, another one did. That's a long history we have here in Canada that needs to be talked about. The 60 scoop is another conversation that doesn't get chatted about too often, but we need to have that conversation. If we're going to create a better future, we need to have serious conversations. We need to bring the truth out, and people have to talk about it. We've got so many things that have been hidden for far too long. We've got so many missing women and children and girls whose families need to have closure. And whether it's finding the remains of a lost loved one in a landfill that the government wants to turn their back on, as a role we can play, we can speak up. We can speak up. We all have a role in creating a better future. The policymakers for the school boards, they need to make sure that the curriculum is being adjusted the way it needs to be. The ministers of education have a role to make sure that the tools are there, and the governments have a role to make sure the tools are there. We went through an inquiry into the missing murdered Indigenous women and girls. 231 recommendations were made. How many of them have been followed up with? We all have a role to play in creating a better future. Our students, you know what? We've got a special role because you are our future. You need to, whenever you can, get out and be on the land. We're surrounded by the trees here that my colleagues have spoken about. That connection to the land, to Mother Earth, is just so important. You need to make sure that your teachers understand that. You need to take home the messages that you hear in school when you have special guests come in and speak to you about Indigenous Canadian history, our history, the history that was here before Canada was Canada. Bring that home, because you know what? We didn't learn that in school. Share that with us because we need to hear it. Make sure your grandparents know it. Share that story with them because they may never have heard that story. Do we have a role to play? We all have a role to play. So thank you for coming in to be part of this day today, because this is an important part of our future and we're creating it together. Miigwech, merci.
The bell will be going shortly. We're asking you to respectfully stay with us for just a few more minutes as we wrap up in a good way. So you have orange ribbons. You are invited to be part of an initiative to express yourself and your commitment to reconciliation. Bear with us, please. So the orange ribbons are on the chairs. There's markers at the back, and they'll be tied to some hoops that are at the back, some circles. To end in a good way, I'd like to call up Brittany Taylor one more time to close us in a good way before we leave with a traveling song. So thank you, Brittany. Thank you, everyone. Miigwech now.
No, I'm kidding. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sitting and being patient and respectful. I know that the audio and visual don't always go hand in hand. So yeah, today is not the 30th. But tomorrow will be, and you're going to hear a lot of things on the radio, on the news, and in your social medias. And just take that time, take that opportunity to learn a little bit more, share some things, and do your reflection, like we said. And you hear your peers and your teachers and all of these people kind of reflecting on where they're at in their reconciliation. What are you doing in your personal growth and development? I know you guys are probably starving and want to go on break and all those beautiful things, which is awesome. But please do pay attention to the words that you're going to write on your ribbons. Please actually take the ribbon off of your chair behind you or up there and reflect on that. Think of me. Think of some of these guys you heard and girls this morning. And yeah, we're going to sing one more time together. We're going to close in a good way and sing with hands on top. Ah, you guys are so cute. So we're going to close in a good way. And we're going to honor these beautiful women again. And they're going to sing us the traveling song. And the traveling song is a song that is sung when a group comes together or when a group travels away together. So this song is to just wish you all well in your day, to wish you well tomorrow and each day, and to carry this song with you while you walk your paths of truth and reconciliation. Chimigwach, everyone, thanks for having me here. Bama Pi Guaman.
Right, let's hear it one more time for Brittany Taylor. That was an amazing. Thank you, Brittany. Chimigwach. You have done amazing. Please bear with us for another 2 minutes while we have a traveling song. Part of the traveling song tradition would say that this is sung on our way out of the building. So as these women are singing, thank you. As these women are singing, we're going to ask you to prepare your ribbons and head on out, but we're going to do it in a quiet way. Don't forget, we have a whole audience out there who can't hear when we raise our voices. So as these women begin to sing the traveling song, you're going to ask to get up and walk out quietly. Whispers can be heard. And don't forget to drop off your ribbon. The legacy piece will be left here at LCVI. So as Brittany had said earlier, you will be able to revisit your ribbon and ensure that you are following those words that you've placed there. So Chibigwech, everyone. Chibigwech at home. We're out in the classrooms. Thanks for being with us. On behalf of everybody at the TLDSB Indigenous Student Success Team, Bamampi.